And I'm the Academy Marketing Specialist for La Joya ISD. How's everyone doing this morning? Well, you all are very lucky this morning because we have excellent speakers that are coming to talk to you about their profession. So we have Mariana Gonzalez, who is going to kick off this morning's panel of speakers. Mariana?
It is an honor for the La Joya High School Academies to have you as one of our panelist speakers. Please help me welcome Rosalie Garza, API Supervisory Intelligent Analyst. Our next panelist is Jessie Quintanilla, Director of the Audio and Video Department at the State Farm Arena. Next is Eddie Science, President at the CSJ Engineering Firm. And finally, help me welcome Leroy Cavazos, Senior Manager of Public Affairs with Coca-Cola.
All right, guys, so how this is going to work, this is our second panel of speakers, and this is a way for professionals in our community to come back and talk to you about their profession. So many of you have already expressed an interest in your career, so these individuals are going to tell you a little bit more about what they do on a day-to-day basis. So I'm going to go ahead and give each individual 2 to 3 minutes to introduce themselves and what they do for a living. And then after that, if you all want to start asking them questions, we have our ambassadors. Ambassadors, can you raise your hands? You can see them behind you and to your side. They will all have iPads. So with those iPads, you can enter a question. Once you enter the question, I'll get it up here, and then I will ask the panel a speaker to clarify your question or to answer your question, okay? Everybody understand? Yes, okay, awesome. So we'll go ahead and start off with Mr. Jesse Quintanilla, and he's the Director of Audio and Video, I should say, at State Farm Arena. Good morning, Jesse.
Good morning. How you doing, everyone? I've been there for about almost 12 years now. I've done everything from Monster Jam, Cirque du Soleil, WWE, Life in Color, even around the city with our festival lights and Border Fest, if any of you have ever gone there. I've done probably over 750 events in that span of time, and I fell in love with it here in the Valley back in 2003. I started working there at the arena back in 2006 after I went to Pan Am with a few our colleagues here, Leroy and Belinda, and it's been a fun ride ever since. Just to give you an example, with what I do with audio and visual, I obviously deal with my sound system in the building. If you've ever been to a Vipers game or a hockey game or anything like that, I also deal with my video board. I'm the guy who puts you and your significant other or anyone who's having a good time on camera on the jumbotron. I'm that guy. Now, if you didn't have a face with that, I also deal with a little bit of IT because nowadays everyone needs Wi-Fi and internet access. And for most of my productions as well as broadcasting. And as of right now, this entire situation is actually mostly audio and video with obviously going from mics, sound, even this live stream we're doing right now. And so it's an interesting field to go into if you like to, broaden horizons when it comes to, opening different, doors and trying different things. It's not your regular job, but I fell in love with it, so.
Thank you, Jesse. And now we have Ms. Rosalie Garza, who is a Supervisory Intelligence Analyst for FBI. Ms. Garza, welcome.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. I've been with the Bureau for 29 years already. All my service has been here in McAllen. I covered the entire Rio Grande Valley from from Zapata all the way to Brownsville. My job as a supervisory analyst is to pretty much help protect the nation. That is our primary goal, to work for you as citizens of the United States. My job is primarily the intelligence component of operations. So my team helps to support all the special agents in office in their investigations. And I'd be more than happy to answer any questions that you might have. The one thing I will tell you is I do not carry a weapon. So if you have any questions about that, I can answer anything you want. But the intelligence component, our biggest brag is that we don't carry a weapon. Our weapon is really our mind and our brain. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Garza. And guys, if you all have a question, if you would just raise your hand so an ambassador could get to you, so you can start asking those questions through the iPads. Next, we have Mr. Leroy Cavazos, who is a Senior Manager of Public Affairs and Communications with Coca-Cola Southwest Beverages. Mr. Cavazos, welcome.
Good morning. Thank you, Belinda. Thank you, boys and girls, for being here this morning. My name is Leroy Cavazos, and as Belle just mentioned, I work for Coca-Cola Southwest Beverages. I know everybody in this room likes one of our over 95 Coke products that are out in the market, whether it be Powerade, Minute Maid, or Dasani or Smart Water, but that's not what I want you to leave here. I want you to continue to enjoy those products and continue buying them, but what I want to resonate with you guys is that for the last 12 years, I have built a career in public affairs, and I've had the privilege and honor of working with governments abroad, from Spain to Cuba to Mexico. I've had the honor of working with a lot of elected officials to pass legislation to defend the rights of many Americans, both here at home and abroad. We have worked on legislation to make sure that our schools get more funding, for that you all can have programs like the ones that you all are here today, and to make sure that people like you sitting in the seats in front of us have and forge the opportunities that people like me have been forged, because there were a lot of people who came before me who carried those torches, and now those torches have been passed on so that people like you guys out there can have the same opportunities that we had, to be able to go to college, to be able to have a career. That should basically be your end goal, guys. As you all look at your next steps after you get out of school, you want to have a career. You don't want to just get a job. You want to have a career that is something that you love to do, because when I wake up every morning, I don't go to work. I go and I participate in my career, and it's a lot of fun, so it doesn't feel like I'm ever working. So I'm happy to ask and answer any questions that you guys have today about what I've done. I've worked in politics, I've worked on diplomacy, I've worked on international relations, and now recently, as Belle mentioned, I joined corporate America. So myself, I am still evolving in my career and learning day to day what corporate America is all about. This is new. Every day you're going to learn something new. So just the fact that you're here today, that you're sitting out there in those seats, means that you're already on the right path, and that La Joya ISD has provided you that opportunity to excel in your future career. So it's an honor to be here with you today.
Thank you, Mr. Cavazos. And next we have Mr. Eddie Science, who's an engineer with CSG Enterprises. Mr. Science, welcome.
Thank you, Belle. Good morning, y'all. My name's Eddie Science. I'm president of CSJ Group, and we're a civil engineering and construction management firm. I went to the University of Texas in Austin. I got an engineering degree there. There are all types of engineers: structural, electrical, mechanical, and I happen to be a civil engineer. Civil engineers basically perform services and design work to help civilians. When you turn on that water, civil engineers design that water to get to your house. When you drive on the streets, civil engineers design those roadways to make sure that they're safe for you all to be on those streets as well. If there's flooding, that's what we do. We design drainage systems so that there won't be any flooding in your subdivision or in the areas around where you live. But there's also some bigger and fun stuff done. I've been able to work with golf course architects and design the golf course here in Edinburgh as well, and that was fun. And also the baseball stadium at UTRGV. That was a great project that I was able to get involved in. But basically, we need to have strong mathematical backgrounds. When I was in high school, my counselor told me I can either I was good for accounting and I was good for engineering. I liked engineering because I like the design work, but I also like to be outside and make sure that as I design it, I can see it being built. So when you're driving around, you say, I was part of this or I was part of that project, it makes you feel proud. So it's something that hopefully some of you will consider, because we are also in need of a lot of engineers in the valley and around the state. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Science. All right, we're going to go ahead and start with the question and answer part. So this is actually, we'll go ahead and start with Ms. Rosalie. Ms. Rosalie, what kind of major cases, investigations have you been involved in? I don't know if you can disclose that.
I can. In my 29-year career, I have really been involved in multiple threat violations. We cover public corruption, cyber, drugs, violent gangs, and violent crimes against children. So I can say that I've worked everything already for the Bureau. Being the Intel supervisor, I cover all the threats. If there's a specific question regarding, I can tell you what my favorite investigation was and how that ended. And it was really a drug conspiracy investigation that lasted maybe 4 or 5 years. I think the most fun part of that was the actual takedown of that investigation. And it was, the reason it was my favorite was because it was also the funniest. We had to take away the assets from the criminal actors, and we got to seize an ostrich. And that was the funniest thing because they're not very nice animals. So there was a bunch of agents running around trying to capture this very angry bird. So that was the funniest instance that we had. And I've also had the opportunity to see large amounts of weapons, drugs, and cash at the same time. So that's always something that is very rewarding because we're doing that for the community. I hope that answered your question.
Yes, thank you so much. Now, Mr. Science, you'd probably be the best one to answer this one. What advice would you give to help one prepare themselves to become a business owner?
Well, becoming a business owner, basically, you need to first learn what you're offering. Once you're an engineer and you're working with other people with whatever firm or whatever government agency you're working with. You start working with people and then you start learning from those individuals which are your mentors. Those mentors could be the business owners that you're working for. And once you start creating a habit to work with individuals, because to be a business owner, you need to be able to work with individuals. You also need to be able to present yourself with clients to let them know what kind of services you perform. It's very easy to do. It just takes a lot of practice. More importantly, obviously, you need to know a lot of math. You need to know your numbers. You need to make sure that you work on budgets. That also helps you in making sure you be a successful businessman.
Thank you. Okay, where is Luis Delgado? Freshman? Luis? Good morning, Luis. And his question was actually for Jesse. Jesse, how does sound and electronics affect a performance?
Well, it's your basic concert. Sometimes, obviously, if you've ever heard feedback, depending on the situation, it can obviously ruin the entire performance and
Or what is the most, I guess, difficult part of keeping everything in line while a live performance is going on?
checking highs and lows of a particular person's voice. You know, in this case right now, obviously I sound nice and clear. Obviously our sound engineer is doing a decent job for all four of us. Some situations where if a monitor or a speaker is in the wrong position, for certain small situations or even outdoors, it can lead to a lot of feedback, and whether it's even just a regular panel, a press conference, or a concert. Learning the basics for it, for any different scenario, will obviously go a long way. There's been situations where I've seen individuals will just use one speaker in an odd situation where you can't just always, you know, if you're in a band, you don't want to always have your speakers next to you, and obviously just trying to do a random performance thinking that's going to sound great, because everyone, you know, loves nice sound. But I guess that's pretty much the way I guess I would sum it up on that situation, that question. Yeah.
Okay, and
Sorry.
Jesse is actually very instrumental in y'all's graduation. So if y'all are getting ready for graduation, Jesse would be the one in charge for all your video and audio. So he does a great job there at State Farm Arena. The next question would be for Leroy. What are the different career options at Coca-Cola?
So Coca-Cola is, so there's two parts of Coca-Cola. You have Coca-Cola North America, which is the brand, the one that does all of our marketing, all of our advertising, the one that is in charge of all our recipe making, the one that runs our Atlanta Center, and then you have the Coca-Cola that I work for, which is Coca-Cola Southwest Beverages, which is the bottling company. We actually manufacture and distribute the product. Here in Texas, we have around 9,700 employees, and we have jobs all the way from an admin to a driver to engineers on our line to people who actually make the product, people who know a lot about science and chemistry, because all of our products have to be chemically tested to make sure that they have the right balance. We have quality control people. We have people in marketing. We have people in commercial real estate. We have mechanics. We have people who run all our fleets. All the red trucks you see out on the road that say Coca-Cola, those all belong to us. We have a very, very strong sales team across the entire state. You have people like me who work on legislation, public affairs, and then you have our executive leadership team, human resources, as you can imagine, to manage a group of 9,700 employees. You have to have a strong arm to manage and maintain your human capital. So there's a wide array of job opportunities and career options when you come to work for an organization as big as ours. Obviously, all our jobs are very well paying. Our plant in San Antonio, there is not a position there that pays less than $14.50 an hour, which is well over the minimum wage. And so everybody is able to make a steady living in order to provide for themselves and their families. And obviously, we also are a big believer that as you obtain your education, not everybody needs a four-year degree. There's a lot of technical people that work in our facilities who earn a very good living, who went through technical training or technical schools as well. So there is a wide variety of options for you to choose from when coming into a company like ours.
Awesome. Thank you, Leroy. And I'm going to go ahead and ask the same question for each one of you because I've gotten the same question pretty much for all of you. What is the best part of your job? Jesse, I'll go ahead and start with you.
When I see a child or even any family member smile during a situation, it's the one thing I you know, it gets to me because I did my part to make that happen. Whether, you know, it was just during a game and you got to go see, you know, or a family show or anything like that, and put you on camera, and it's those moments that, you know, that last forever, you know, whether it and even at graduations. And to me, that's why I fell in love with, and it's gone a long way. That's why I fell in love with my job, and I want to keep on doing it hopefully for the next 5 to 10 years, if not 20. And so, yeah.
Okay, Miss Rosalie.
The best part of my job is, like I said earlier today, protecting the nation. But I really enjoy working with the community also, and with recruitment. I enjoy inspiring young men and women to join the FBI, and encourage you to apply for the Bureau and maintain your grades, and so that you can aspire to work for us. The Bureau in itself has, at the moment, we're looking for more diversity, and one of the things that we're looking for is more females to join the cadre in the Bureau. So we're very heavy in the male component in our organization. So I highly encourage any one of you that wants to join the Bureau to look into the opportunities that we have.
Okay, Mr. Leroy?
I would have to say that the best part of my job is developing and cultivating relationships to enact social and political change in our society. Rosalie makes a very good point. There are very few Latinos and there are very few women who are able to do the work that I do because there's not enough of us. And so when I go in front of a governing body in another country to make a justification why we as a country here in America should receive immigrants or refugees from foreign lands, that's enacting social and political change here in the United States. So that's one piece of it, being able to do that advocacy on behalf of society in general. And then the second piece, which is what Rosalie touched on, is making sure that as that advocacy is being done, that you not only stand at a precipice on your own, but that you bring people up with you. So when you're doing that type of work in front of decision makers, that you also make sure that you are advocating for the advancement of women, the advancement of minorities, the advancement of disabled people, the advancement of veterans, and that you continuously cultivate people to be able to do the same work that you're doing. Because as long as that cultivation is going on, the work will always continue, because there'll be people behind you doing the same thing that you're doing. So those are I know that sounds like a very complicated answer to that question, but it's very necessary that you as young people understand that you hold power to enact social and political change, not only in this community, but in a broader sense of society.
Okay, and Mr. Science.
There's two things that I love about my job. One is working with the people, working with the community, interacting with them, and knowing their needs. The other part is seeing a project through its completion, seeing it built, seeing it completed. As a civil engineer, you're out there with the public because you are talking to cities, you are talking to them about their needs, and you're trying to find out what is the best way to address what their needs are. You know, this past month I received 3 calls in regards to trying to help the communities that were devastated by Hurricane Harvey. Civil engineers are one of the first ones that go out there to try to rebuild their system, whether it's a water system, sewer system, drainage, most importantly, and just getting them back on their feet. So I love working in the community. I'm a people person, and I think that if you have those traits, you would be great to be a civil engineer as well.
Thank you, Mr. Science. And I'm going to go ahead and stay with you on this next question. And this next question is, do you need a strong team to do what you've created, whether it be construction, civil?
Sure, yes. When you're developing your team, you're hiring individuals that you have to believe in, that they have the capabilities to design a system for you. Those designers and other engineers are also working with drafting technicians, people that are doing the plans and drawing the plans, and you're making sure that you need to make sure that they draw them as they should be to be able to be built correctly. And then at the other end, you're also looking at good contractors that will be out there and will do and build this project as the way you design it. So you are interacting with not just the engineers, you're interacting with designers, project technicians, surveyors that are out there getting you the information, as well as the contractors that you entrust to build it correctly. So you need to know these individuals and make sure that they have good backgrounds, they have done work in the past that has passed and everybody has accepted it. So it is very important to have a good, strong team behind you to have a successful project.
Thank you, Mr. Science. Sticking with the engineering theme, Leroy, this next question is for you. You mentioned engineering when you talked about, or actually chemistry and biology when you were talking about the different career options. Does engineering play an integral part in the manufacturing?
Yes, engineering plays a very important part in what we do as manufacturers, because you have these huge manufacturing lines and they all require some type of engineering in order so that their functionality is optimal, so that you're getting the most bang for your buck. On a regular day, one of our lines will produce about, well, I'll give you an example. Let's take a 12-ounce can of Coca-Cola. In the San Antonio plant, we produce 1.2 million cans of Coca-Cola on a weekly basis. If that line is not being managed correctly by engineers, guess what? We're not going to produce as much Coca-Cola as we should, which then that affects how much we put out into the market. So on a good day, our line will be working at about 92 to 95%, which is still not at 100%, but then there's other days when things happen on that line when the line is only producing at 70%. So then that's when our engineering teams come in, figure out what's going on with the manufacturing line, why did it drop from a 95% to a 70, 72%, and how do you fix that gap in order to continue to produce the quantity of product that you need to deploy into the market? So engineering is definitely a big part of our business. Anything that happens in our facility, like Mr. Sines was mentioning, civil engineering, I mean, we are constantly revamping our facilities. April the 1st, we got bought out by a Mexican company out of Monterrey, Nuevo León, called Arca Continental. So right now we have a huge civil engineering dynamic that's going on within our organization to make our plants better. I mean, Coca-Cola has been around for more than 100 years in Texas. So as you can see, a lot of our facilities and manufacturing lines are somewhat outdated or have not been revamped. So engineering in our business is a big part of the business.
Okay, Ms. Rosalie, next question is for you. What sort of educational background do you need to work for the FBI?
To work for the FBI, there's multiple positions that we have. Leroy mentioned it earlier. His organization is very diverse, and we have admin positions as well, where you don't require a degree. You can have a high school education. However, most of our positions require a college degree. It does not matter what kind of degree it is. The FBI welcomes everybody that has a different background. We have engineering degrees, we have lawyers, we have teachers that come and work for the FBI. And as a government worker, just understand that you will be a government employee and you work for your city and whatever county you're in. So you're responding to your surroundings. My background is criminal justice, and everybody thinks that if you come to work for the FBI, you need a criminal justice degree. That is not true. Most of our newer employees don't have a degree in criminal justice. Most of them are political science degrees or engineering. So it's a very diverse background. To be an agent, you do need 3 years of experience prior to applying to be an agent. To be an intelligence analyst, you have to have a degree, and any kind of experience is accepted. For each one of those positions, there's a phase, there's 3 phases. You have to pass, the first phase is a written test. The second phase is once you pass the written test, you go through a background. And then the third phase is the panel interview. It's a regional location that you might be going to, and you're interviewed by a panel of 5 people. That will determine whether or not you will be accepted into the Bureau. And there is a very extensive background. I think the biggest part is the polygraph. Everybody asks me about the polygraph test. And yes, we do have a polygraph test that will determine whether or not the Bureau will accept you as an employee.
Thank you. Next question, Lizeth Armijo wants to know, Jesse, how is your day structured while you're working an event? If you had an event tonight, what would be your day? And then also on the flip side, what would be your day if you didn't have an event?
Event days, I'll usually start with obviously we'll use a basketball game as an example. I'm usually there at 8 o'clock in the morning. And it varies because some weeks I'll have up to 4 or 5 events a week, from hockey, basketball, to a concert, to a random soccer game, which we're about to have again, and that can change it over to basketball. And it'll consist of that, obviously, and I'll have to obviously bring out my cables and equipment before the away team usually shows up around 10 o'clock for their practice. I'm usually set up if you want me to go step by step, I'll go from obviously running my cables for audio, not just audio, but mainly obviously for my scoreboard, to my video, doing my testing with my audio, especially because we also have to do a radio broadcast for our streaming to our NBA website that we have to do which is league policy. My main issues for those is also, most important things is obviously stats, stream, and scoreboard. Most important things, especially now because we have our first game this coming week, and believe it or not, on November 8th we'll actually have Tony Parker there. Believe it or not, if any Spurs fans here, if you want, should get your tickets for that. But I'm just plugging that. But throughout the day, I'm trying to get most of my setup before lunchtime because I only have about, give or take, 45 minutes of lunch. Because I have to come back and do other testing as well as for my video board, plugging in sponsors, TV spots, other slides, and then I'll have our dance team do their practice for that, and then also do a few more testing with my video because you never know, things happen. And that's all before 4 o'clock. Game time is usually at 7:30, and so once the game obviously starts, I'm stuck in my office the entire time in my control room for the next 2.5 hours, putting one of y'all on my jumbotron if you're having a good time. And usually it consists of about a 4-man job, and it makes it my control. I break it down to one person in my situation for budget reasons. But I'll have about 2 or 3 camera operators downstairs for the fan experience. And usually around, and it depends on the game also, how things are. Whether it's a boring game or it's actually a fun game, it's an intense game. We try to build off the emotions of you all in the stands because you're actually what makes the game. I can do what I can do, try to get you loud, try to get you hyped up. Our PA guys try to do the same exact thing, and the players, and they build off of you. And so I try to do, go above and beyond that for my part, because if I'm not doing that, you're not having a good time. And usually after the game's done, I'm usually done around 10:30, 11 p.m. So it's like 8 a.m. to 11 p.m. day. Sometimes it's about a 14, 15-hour day. That's a work day. Off days, it's usually 8:30 to 5:30, and Sometimes I have to do some maintenance around my equipment, and sometimes things come up at the city, because I work in the city of Hidalgo, because we also do other events there, and I also deal with the everything AV for the city as well, and so sometimes I'll have to do a random event in our park. It was just setting up sound, simple situations like that, and it's spur of the moment. Things happen. And so I'm given a situation, I evaluate it, and I go forward with it. And so I'm used to it. And when it comes to what I do, you have to have, or any of these positions, that's what you have to do. You have to take the situation, process it, and move forward with it. And that's where there's a lot of critical thinking. You have to be able to obviously multitask. I have to be a jack of all trades with what I do, and make the situation happen no matter what. And mind you, you're gonna you fail. I've had plenty of trial and errors over the years, plenty of trial. But that's usually the situation for my day. And my season starts from actually this coming month all the way to graduation season, which is June, and it's a lot of events, a lot of time. There's a lot of weekends, holidays, and it's not for the faint of heart. So that is the unfortunate part of AV stuff. And so if you want to do it, whether it's sports, because believe it or not, if you ever watch a football game, NFL game, NBA game, all those guys are there all day long and then some, even all night. It's a lot of work, a lot of time, but they love it too. So.
Thank you, Jesse. And Viviana Gonzalez has a question. I'm going to go ahead and address it to all of you. Do you feel that your Hispanic background has been an advantage or disadvantage in helping to get to where you are now? So, Mr. Science, I'll go ahead and start with you.
I was able to get a scholarship to go to the University of Texas because at that time there was a Hispanic scholarship program. It wasn't a lot, but it helped me get through my classes financially, and I also had work study. Being Hispanic at that time, which was 40 years ago, obviously was a lot tougher. I'm not saying it isn't now, but at the end of the day, you still have to make sure that you know your stuff, that you know what it is to be an engineer. You know your math, you know your courses, and through hard work and dedication, that when you present yourself to anybody in regards to what you have to offer, that you can prove yourself that you do it. And yes, it did help me then, and also there are programs out there where even small businesses like myself are able to have opportunities, but you still have to prove yourself that you can do this work. So we did take advantage of it from that standpoint, but we also, at the end, being successful in regards to the work you've done, they acknowledge that you can do this work no matter what ethnicity you are. Thank you.
Leroy?
Well, I'm gonna give you more so than being Hispanic. What has helped me advance in my career in the Hispanic piece, because I mean I don't look Hispanic, right? So is knowing how to read, write, and effectively communicate in Spanish. One of the reasons I have this new job is because of that. There was 2 top contenders, me and another person, and they went with me because the other person didn't know a lick of Spanish. Being Hispanic, in my opinion, is a state of mind. Anybody can be Hispanic because in this country, we're already going to be the majority. So if you're doing business, if you're going to school, if you're interacting in a bureaucracy, you're going to be interfacing with or Hispanics. What you all want to make sure is that people in the workforce arena do not use your Hispanicness as a checkbox. You want to always be conscientious of where you come from. I always tell people I'm Mexican-American because, you see, my mom's side of the family grew up right over there across the river in Díaz Ordaz, Tamaulipas. So you never forget where you come from, and if you never forget where you come from, people will not use you as a Hispanic as a social checkbox in a job application, as a social checkbox in a meeting to acquire a contract, as a social checkbox to get the extra mile of business. But if you know Spanish, you have a skill set that then gives you the ability to work smarter and not work harder, and that gives you the ability to prove to people that, yeah, sure, I'm Hispanic, my parents are of Mexican-American descent, but more so than that, I can defend the fact that I'm Hispanic because I can communicate with not only Hispanics, but I can communicate with all types of Latinos across the world. So being Hispanic, think about it as it's a state of mind. Knowing how to speak and communicate effectively in Spanish allows you to represent your heritage, but also allows you to have a technical skill that will allow you to advance in your careers.
Thank you, Leroy. Miss Rosalie?
I was not hired because I was Hispanic. I was hired for my background. I worked for U.S. Customs before I was recruited to the FBI. However, speaking Spanish did enhance my application. The one thing that the Bureau does do is that if you have multiple language degrees, or if you speak Spanish or any other language, they do have an incentive that they will pay you extra if you speak Spanish or any other language. So you just take a test, and if you pass that test based on the level of your skill, you can make extra money on that. The Bureau has language analysts from multiple countries that work for us, so just keep that in mind as well.
Okay, Jesse?
The answer is no. And mainly because I'm going to be very honest with everyone here. I don't speak Spanish. I don't. Obviously, it makes sense. I don't. I do support being. Yeah, everyone should be bilingual. I wish I could. I can't. I can't figure it out. But that's my own fault. But because of that, and and believe it or not, I'm not from the Valley. I'm from a small place called Van Vleck, Texas, outside of Houston, and different different community. I was part of a small percentage of Hispanics living there. And then when I moved down here back in 2003, and the challenge with that, with the culture shock, I had to overcome that because I didn't speak Spanish. And also after graduating from Pan Am, enter into the workforce, and making the best of the situation. I overcame that, and that's where, in this case, I don't believe being Hispanic is, again, like Leroy said, it is a state of mind. It is a mind and a mind thing, and whether you're strong-minded or not, you have to be, I believe so, and to overcome situations and be successful in life, and hopefully one day I'll speak Spanish. I have visited Monterrey several times. I've visited Mexico City several times, and I love Mexican food, but that's neither here nor there. But my answer is no.
Okay. And one more question before we start wrapping up. Are there different internships available where you work, either for your profession or other professions? Jesse, go ahead.
I do take on usually an individual or two throughout the year, who's ever actually, whether it wants to be a part-timer or just intern. I recently had an intern from, actually a part-timer from, he was actually going to Texas A&M, and he works for the 12th Man production crew there and they're actually doing SEC games. And each year, whoever wants to learn, I'm willing to teach, and it's a different, obviously, lifestyle, but the event business, the entertainment business, and it's exciting, but also you have to be a pro. You can't. We all have our celebrities that we want to meet one day, but at the end of the day, you have to be a pro. And so I emphasize that. And but yes, if you want to come on later on when you're in college or after 18, you have to be 18. Unfortunately, at the arena in City of Hidalgo, I'm willing to take you on. So.
Okay, Ms. Rosalie?
Yes, the Bureau does, the FBI does have multiple internships, different levels. We have one for high school students, then we have another one for when you're a junior in college, you can apply for an FBI internship as well. And then we have different internships that if you're, and it's really strange, but if you are a junior in college, it doesn't matter what age you are. It's not based on your degree either. You apply for an honors internship, and you can go to Washington, D.C. and work there for the summer. Also, students have worked in our office for an entire year just to get their, a little bit of background on FBI, and those have led to careers in the FBI. So I'm really excited about the internships that we have. And I'll talk to you a little bit about the FBI Teen Academy. We had 3 FBI Teen Academies this summer. And one of those things that you can do is we advertise to the different schools, and we can select a few students to participate in our FBI Teen Academy. And it's based on a scholarship, on your application, and how you feel the FBI can help you with your future goals. So that happens in the summer, and we'll make sure that your school gets those applications.
Awesome. And Mr. Leroy?
Yes, so through Coca-Cola, through the Coca-Cola Foundation, we have the program called the Coca-Cola Scholars. And so I highly encourage you guys that are in high school, and as you all transition into your college careers, that you look up the Coca-Cola Scholarship Foundation. We do give internships and scholarships. It's kind of like a package deal. If you get selected as a Coca-Cola Scholar, you have the option of going and doing a Coca-Cola internship. And so the option is there to do that within our company. And I will say this, it's very important that each of you strategically inject yourself into an internship, because internships open a lot of doors. I wouldn't be where I'm at today if it wasn't for internships. So for the last organizations that I've worked for, I've always managed our internship programs. And it's part of that whole notion of, if you're climbing up to the top, you gotta bring people up with you. And internships are a great way of doing that. So I'm a big fan of internships. There's times where you might not get paid. There's times where you might have to make some coffee and do some filing. But I guarantee you that being a fly on the wall, being an intern in an organization where you're there just absorbing everything that's going on around you, will definitely open doors and give you opportunities.
Okay, and Mr. Science?
Well, I'm not as big as Coca-Cola or the FBI, so the internships aren't as big. But I have, over the 40 years, 35 years in business, we've had many individuals come in through our summers to do a lot of computer drafting, every once in a while, depending on workload, even going outside, but also pouring coffee as well, and being a fly on the wall. But I believe that's how I got my first job, because I did some summer interns with the highway department, and where it took me an hour to get to work from Austin all the way to Bastrop. But because my supervisor saw that I didn't miss a day, that I was the first individual that he'd ever hired that knew had to come from Austin to be there every day at 7 o'clock and be outside in the construction, he made a great recommendation to me, and that's where I got my first full-time job here at the Highway Department in FAR. So it takes a lot of hard work and dedication, but if you really want to succeed, become an intern, that'd be great. The Highway Department does it all the time. The counties are doing it now, and so are the cities. But every once in a while, there are opportunities in my office to be an intern as well. So I know the school has my information, and we'd be glad to consider anybody that wants to consider doing something within the civil engineering part of services.
Thank you, Mr. Science. And these are excellent opportunities, students. A lot of us did not have that when we were your age. So if you see a career that you identify with, I would highly suggest that you write their names down or where they work. And so that way your teachers or your director can get in touch with us. And if an internship is what you want or what you need, we can go ahead and get in touch with them. Just to wrap everything up, I'm going to give each one of you about 1 to 2 minutes just to kind of tell the students anything that you would like them to know, either in their educational career, their career pathway. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to you all. Jesse, I'm going to go ahead and start with you.
When it comes to AV, you're going to want to either major in obviously either broadcasting and a little bit of theater with the terminology. From there, as we were explaining earlier, you have to be obviously educated and experienced, a little bit experienced to be competitive in today's market, no matter what, wherever you go. And you have to start from the beginning as an intern after that and get your foot in the door. Networking is huge. One way or another, you have to network yourself and promote yourself in a certain way, because otherwise, because other people have to vouch for you in the process as well, with trust. And so those 3 things, I believe, it'll go a long way with you. And again, you have to start somewhere. But you have to finish with your education no matter what. And again, if it's just an internship or a part-time job, in your field, you got to start from there and work your way up.
Thank you, Jesse. Ms. Rosalie?
I'd like to add that I was raised in a very indigent family. I was a migrant worker, and if I can work for the FBI, any single one of you can do the same thing. It's all about your work ethic, what your goals are, staying out of trouble, and being confident in your ability to do what you want in your career. I'd also like to add that the FBI works with each one of these panelists. We work with the State Farm Arena, we work with Coca-Cola, and we work with cities, in protecting everybody. But whenever there's a major event, we have celebrities coming in, at State Farm Arena, the FBI is there to work. With Coca-Cola, we work hand in hand with them whenever they have major events also. And with our cities around here, we work with them as well. So the FBI is everywhere. We're part of your community. And if you ever need anything, you could reach out to our McAllen office. If you need to talk to somebody about internships or just what do I have to do, you can call any office anywhere in the United States, and we'll be there to help you. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Rosalie. Leroy?
I'm going to leave you with some wise words that I received one day from this gentleman. He's an older gentleman, very successful, a cardiac surgeon, performed the first ever open heart surgery in the Canary Islands back in 1946. His name is Dr. Alfonso Chiscano, and he's a very, rough Spaniard sometimes, and he always would, he told me one day, mi niño, te voy a decir 3 cosas. That's how he talks. And he said, only 3 things, the recipe to be happy in your life and in your career. He said, don't ever forget where you came from. Always lift up the community that made you who you are. And if you love what you do in your career, you will never feel like you're working. And I have taken that advice and I have lived by that. And at the age of 32 and looking back on my 12-year career, it's very true. As long as you always know who you are and where you came from, as long as you bring up the people who made you accelerate and get there, and as long as you love what you're doing, that's pretty much the recipe for success in his eyes, and I'm slowly but surely defining that myself and being able to see how true that is. So that's what I will leave you guys with.
Thank you, Leroy. And Mr. Science?
I hate being last coming after this guy. He's crazy. Well, hard work and dedication, I didn't really get to determine what I was going to do until my end junior year or early senior year. But to be successful, You need to start now. Work with your counselors. Study hard. Get involved in your student organizations. Community involvement is big. And it's not just going to work, doing your engineering. Get involved in the community when you graduate. You join the chamber, join a service organization. Right now I stand on the board of the South Texas Health Systems, which is a hospital, McAllen Medical Center, Edinburgh Children's Hospital, because I'm involved in the community and I want to give back to the community. If you stay involved, you will be around good people that want to build and make the community grow in the right way. So, start now and determine, find your path in regards to what you'd like to do when you go to college and after college. But always stay involved in the community because you will meet so many people, so many different people that are from different types of businesses that will help you in your career as well. But as I say, stay involved and be a part of the community, and the community will become a part of you as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Science. Well, guys, that's a wrap for our panel of speakers. Can we give all of them a round of applause? And I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Ambassador Roy Flores, who has a small token of appreciation for our panel.
On behalf of La Joya High School Academies, we would like to present our panelists with a token of appreciation.